Hello, and welcome back. I'm so proud of the Democratic voters out there. Oh, you guys got it done. You got it done. And here we are, back at you on November the 9th after Election Day. And you should be very proud of yourselves. Oh, you got a lot done. You know, listen, people always say one thing, you can't get it done. It's impossible to get it done. Let me get this saying right. They all say it's impossible until you actually get it done. And they, Democrats, be proud of yourself. You definitely got it done. You definitely got it done. And welcome to the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus Show live. We're back at you November the 9th, 2022 on, well, all the platforms, folks. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We are on YouTube, and we are on, where's the other one? Twitter. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's a little questionable. We got to work towards that. That's a conversation for another show. But thank you for being back here with us, and we're happy to have you back here again. Wait a minute. We're not live yet. Hold on a second. Let me try it again here, folks. We're having a little technical issue. Let's try it again. Hold on a minute. Okay, here we go. Let's try it again. Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus Show. You are back with us, and thank you. You are back. Had a little technical problems at the beginning, but you're back with us now. Welcome back. November the 9th, day after the election 2022, here at the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus Show. Live, back at you. Oh, be proud of yourself, folks. You got it done. We didn't get it all done, but we got a lot done. You know, they always say it's impossible until you get it done. Welcome back. Oh, we got our sound coming at us a little bit here. We're happy to have you back. You know, we always start with a little Bob. We're going to bring him down a little bit. And I just want to tell you, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for getting it done. There's a lot of positive things that came out of our last election, and I'm just happy to be a part of that. You know, listen, I'm going to go ahead and give you this one more time. When I say go out to vote, we won't go vote on November the 8th. It always seems impossible until it's done. Go vote on November the 8th. Go vote on November the 8th. Fantastic. That's what you did. You got a lot of good Democrats elected. Some of us didn't get elected. We didn't win them all, but we did win a lot. We went a long way towards helping to secure and keep Democrats in the House and keep Democrats in the Senate. It's not over yet. There's more to come, but at least you did what you needed to do, and you changed a trend, which had been a trend for a long time. They were looking at the Democrats really losing a whole lot of seats in the House and the Senate, and just having this terrible thing happen, which happens every year when a particular party wins the presidency. But that did not happen. So Democrats need to be proud of themselves. They need to be proud of what they were able to get done. And remember, it's part of the long game. We've got to move towards getting things taken care of. And one of the things that we need to get taken care of is voting rights. I come here every week. I talk to you about the importance of voting rights. This was an example of what it was this past election, November the 8th. People got out and voted, and they made a difference. And that only starts with your right to unfettered access to the voting polls. So thank you very much. So let me go back and talk about what I usually talk about at the beginning of the show. I just asked folks, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus Show. And those of you that are small business owners, those of you who are supporting small business owners, those of you who are looking to become small business owners, well, just welcome back to the show. We appreciate you having you here. And let me just check with you again. There's a little bit of rise. I talk about COVID every time at the beginning of the show, and I say, hey, is everybody protected? Is everybody making sure that they're doing the right thing so that they will be protected from COVID-19? Make sure you've had your immunizations. Make sure you're wearing your mask when you need to wear it. Make sure if you don't want to take your immunizations, that's your choice. But it is not over yet. I just heard yesterday in the news that there's still, about 285 people dying from COVID. Still, that's the average across the country. So obviously, if 285 people are dying daily from COVID, then you still need to make sure that you're doing what you need to do to take care of yourself and your family and being here to be with us. And I'm just happy to be back after a really big election day yesterday. Democrats really showed up and showed out. We didn't win everything we wanted to win. There's more out there to be done, but that's okay. It's all about the long game. It's all about staying engaged, and it's all about doing what you need to do to make sure that the ideals that we want to see happen here in the country and across the country happen. And the only way that actually gets done is when you vote and having access to vote. So, I'm going to go into my spiel later on about voting rights. I don't have a guest this time, but you know what? I am just so proud of folks, man. This is an amazing thing. Listen, I'm going to give you a round of applause. How about that? Democrats, you got it done. You got it done. Be proud. There's a big clap. Do what you need to do. It's a big deal. It's a real big deal. So be happy about it. Folks, there you go. There's your applause, standing applause. Yesterday when I was working at the polls, I was clapping people in and clapping people out. Happy to see them come vote. And I don't care which side of the aisle that you were on, but the fact that you could come vote and not have unfettered access to the voting polls was a good thing. That's an American thing. That's a democratic thing. Big D democratic thing. Or is that little D? Anyway, I get that mixed up. But the point is, it's about keeping our democracy safe, making sure we don't end up with a theocracy or with a monarchy or with a dictatorship. All that stuff is bad. So when people can come vote and cast your vote and let the best person win, that is what's important. And that's why I was out there at the polls yesterday, spending some time there, talking to folks as they go in, handing them sample ballots and clapping them in and clapping them out. Nothing but applause. I love that applause part. One more time. Woo! Yes, you did it. You changed a trend that had been around for a long time. I think the last time that the party that had won the presidency really did this well again, I think after the next election, I think it was back when one of our folks who got elected from the other party after the 9/11 scenario. So Democrats and young people of all stripes, old and young, and folks just showed up all over the country. And you know what? Very proud. Very proud. I'm excited about that because I know that we're moving closer to getting things done. We're moving closer to making sure we have enough people in place that we can go ahead and pass some things that are good for the entire country and to turn around some things that we're not happy with. But I don't talk about so much what we're not happy with. I talk about positive things. What is it that we can do that's going to help people? And that's what's important. That's what the whole point of this thing is, to work as the Democratic Party, bringing things to working Americans and bringing things to folks all over the country that is going to allow them to lead a better life and to make sure that we're using our resources in equity and fairness for everyone and making sure that that's the case. So there we go. That's what we do every time. I'm not going to have a guest this week, as I said. I'm just going to go right to the spiel that I always go into. And the spiel that I go into is voting rights. Yes, I'm going to talk about it until we get everyone in place, until we have enough folks in Congress to pass the voting rights laws. Because once those voting rights laws are in place, good things will flow for all the other policies that we need to get done. But I know if that doesn't get in place, then that's going to stop some very important legislation from happening, and some very important people from getting elected who will present that legislation when it comes to all the other things that we have an interest in getting done, from healthcare to the environment, to student loans, to dealing with the George Floyd bill, to dealing with the women's right to privacy and healthcare. All of the things. I mean, there's just a myriad of different things that go nowhere if you don't have voting rights, if you can't elect people that you need to elect. So I like to always get right into that and tell people, hey, congratulations, but you know what? It's all about the long game, so don't get too happy. We want to stay on top of things. We have to stay on top of things. So I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to talk about what I consider really the trifecta of your basic civil rights that lead to voting rights. And one of those things is what I'm ready to tell you now is what happened in 1964. Yes, I'm going to talk about it again. And that is about the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which basically prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Provisions of this Civil Rights Bill Act forbade discrimination on the basis of sex as well as race in hiring and promotions and firing. There's a lot of people who basically demonstrated that had to do what they needed to do in order to get it done. If you look at the bottom there, you got this guy here with police dogs biting them and everything else, while folks did civil disobedience to get the rights that they were guaranteed in this country in our Constitution. And eventually that led to Lyndon Baines Johnson, the president that you can see there, actually signing the Civil Rights Bill of 1964. He's there with the other iconic picture of MLK or Martin Luther King. And then what you see there is just kids all together on a bus, everybody living in harmony, working together as all Americans to get things done. Okay, so folks, that's what's important. So first of all, we had the Act of 64, and then in 1965 we had the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and this is what I'm here to talk about, because not only did you need a guarantee of civil rights, but you needed the right to vote, because people were doing things to stop people from voting, even though they had those rights in the Constitution as American citizens. So a bill got signed in 1965 by LBJ. It outlawed the discriminatory voting practices that were adopted in many southern states and some northern states after the Civil War, including things like literacy tests and prerequisite to voting, things that we call nowadays, we call that voter suppression, and whether or not it's legal or extra legal or illegal voter suppression. These are the things that are happening to people back then. Most of what was happening back then, it was actually legal, and some of it was illegal. I mean, people were using, what do you call it? Organizations like the KKK or other different organizations outside the law to violently suppress African Americans and other people from voting. But there was protests. In those protests, people stood up, did what they needed to do. They demanded it. And then again, President Lyndon Baines Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act. And of course, that picture there on the Edmund Pettus Bridge is also the iconic picture of a young John Lewis, who was marching across that bridge and nearly lost his life protesting to make sure we had the right to vote. So folks, this is important, and we don't want to move backwards. We want to continue to move forward. That's why I was so excited about making sure that we celebrated the fact of November the 8th and things that we got done, because that moved us closer to making sure that the things that were taken out of the Voting Rights Act, the pre-clearance piece, gets put back in. But in order to do that, we need to elect people who will actually put that legislation forward, make sure that it passes the House and the Senate and gets to the president's desk for signature for all Americans. Okay, so I just continue to celebrate that. I'm excited about it, and I think you ought to be excited about it because that is what our democracy is all about. And, I'm going to show you this clip one more time. One more time, I'm going to just give you applause too because it's fantastic. Go vote on November the 8th. It always seems impossible until it's done. Go vote on November. And that is what's important. And again, I'm stopping again to give people another round of applause because you did what you needed to do. There are the applause. That's right. Pat yourself on the back. You got it done. And stay with it. Stay with it. It's important that you stay with it. Okay? Now, folks, I'm just acting a little bit different this week because I just want people to know they did something that was extraordinary. We didn't win it all, but we got a lot done. Now, I told you about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I told you about the Voting Rights Act of 1965, but the other leg to that three-legged stool is really the Fair Housing Act. And the Fair Housing Act came about in 1968. Which expanded on previous acts. Basically, what it did, it prohibited discrimination during the sale, the rental, or the financing of housing based on race, religion, national origin, and later amended to include handicap and family status. This thing is also known as Title VIII. And it's also known as the Fair Housing Act, as I said earlier, of 1968. Again, you see at the bottom people protesting for fair housing because people need to have a place to live. They need to have basic civil rights to be able to walk around without being abused by anyone on a state or federal level or local level. And they need to have the right to vote to elect these people that they want representing them, and they need a place to live. So there you go. You got LBJ there again, signing it in the law in the Fair Housing Act of 1968. It happened because people stayed with it. It's all about the long game. Don't let them get you off of your game. You have to stay with it. And folks, there were some good things that have happened since then. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Voting Rights Act again, as I do every week. And I'm going to tell you that what happened with H.R. 4, which is the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. This bill establishes new criteria which states and political subdivisions must obtain pre-clearance before voting practices in their area may take place. This process was known as pre-clearance, receiving pre-approval from the Department of Justice and making before any legal changes would be made to voting rights. Now, what happened in 2013, the pre-clearance portion was taken away by the Supreme Court. And this is important that people understand this. You probably say, well, man, all this happened in the 60s. Why are we having to do this again? Well, in 2013, the Supreme Court decided in all of its wisdom that there was no discrimination. People could vote without being, attacked or either stopped from voting or anything like that. Well, kind of true, but what really they didn't consider, or maybe they did, was voter suppression takes many forms. And one of the ways that voter suppression takes place is the lack of voting polls that are near your home. Now, you're not getting attacked. You just don't have a local neighborhood poll to go to vote. Maybe the poll is 5, 10, 20 miles away. Or if you live in a really dense neighborhood, the poll may be close by, but instead of having adequate machines, enough of them so that people can get in, vote, and get out, instead of having 20 machines, they may only have 5 machines. Therefore, you get these really long lines. On top of that, people were passing laws such as you can't bring people water while they're waiting in line, or food, or just anything that they could do, or outlawing or cutting down on the days of early voting, or, things for souls to the polls, making Sunday voting unavailable for people who are trying to go after church, all kinds of things, specific things that targeted certain neighborhoods. So really, when we talk about the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, this is why this act needed to get put back into place, because now people wouldn't be able to make local or state laws without it going through a pre-clearance process with the Department of Justice. And that process had to happen 180 days before any election. So basically, what else this law included was modernizing the Voting Rights Act formula for determining discrimination in states and localities. It did what I said earlier about voting rules having to take place at least 180 days before an election for any changes. And also giving the government a little more authority to send in federal observers to monitor jurisdictions for potential risk of discrimination at the polls during voting. All important. This bill passed the House, and then another bill was added to this, which was the H.R. 1, which is For the People's Act, even expanding access to the voting ballot box even more so, reducing the influence of big money in politics, strengthening the ethic rules for public servants, and implementing other anti-corruption measures for the purpose of fortifying our democracy and other purposes. And these are the reasons that people came out to vote yesterday on November the 8th. Protecting our democracy. Let me tell you a little more what's in this bill. In addition to expanding the access to voting, adding automatic and same-day voter registration nationwide, making sure there was at least 2 weeks of early voting for all voters, minimum, and that's known as absentee voting, banning purging of the voting rolls, which if you don't know what that is, that means if you vote in one election and you think you're registered, you skip an election for 1 year and you come back to vote the following year, all of a sudden your name is no longer on there. Once your name is on the voting polls, there's no reason for it to be removed. And unless you move to another jurisdiction or something of that nature. So people are not allowed to do techniques of purging voting rolls. Also, it restores the full protections of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, as I said, which was taken away by the Supreme Court in 2013. And that is the pre-clearance piece I was talking about earlier. And also finance reforms like banning foreign money loopholes, election security, which has things like independent commissions to prevent gerrymandering, and also grants to help states replace voting machines. Money from the federal government saying, hey, you got old machines, you need to update them, no problem. It's your tax money, here it is, go get it done. And also processes for auditing and securing election results. And basically that was the two bill, H.R. 1, which is, you get the name of this again, the For the People Act that has passed the House. And then you also had H.R. 4, which was a John Lewis Voting Rights Act, named after the iconic John Lewis for all the hard work he and others did in order to make sure that voting rights were available to everyone. Now, the last thing that was passed in the Senate, or was attempting to be passed in the Senate, was the Senate Bill 2747, which was the Freedom to Vote Act, which basically what this bill did was it incorporated a lot of the things that the House wanted to do, and plus it had other things in there that addressed gerrymandering, that addressed disclosure of at least 10 years of tax returns for candidates, prohibiting members of Congress from using taxpayer dollars to settle harassment suits, and curbing corporate influence in politics by forcing super PACs to disclose their donors, requiring government contractors to disclose their political spending, and prohibiting coordination between candidates, super PACs, and other reforms. So as you can see, the Senate tried to go even a little bit further. That bill, and whatever the bill that was similar to that came out of the Senate to get the voting rights bill passed, last time it did not pass. So we needed to make sure that we were continuing to do what we needed to do election-wise in order to make sure we have enough people to pass the voting rights bill. So we went a long way in trying to hold the ground and to move forward in the Senate as Democrats to accomplish that. And, you know, you'll hear a lot of stuff on the news. I don't know whether you listen to stuff on the radio or you're watching these cable news channels or your local channels, and just basically your news talking heads and other folks talking about what happened yesterday. All in all, it's not done. There's still some elections that need to be addressed before it's all over. But what it looks like is the Democrats held their ground. And in some cases, it may look as though they may have even made some advances, but that's yet to be settled. I'm not a news show. I'm just telling you what happened from what I've seen and giving you the short version of that. So stay with it. Watch your news, wherever the channels that you watch, and you'll find out. But it's clear at this point, the Democrats did a lot better than expected. And and getting something done is important, because a lot of people do a lot of talking, but they don't actually go out and do anything. But I am just excited. Like I said, Democrats, be proud of yourself. Americans across the board, no matter what party that you're in, there's a lot of folks out there who may not be Democrats, who voted for Democrats. So I'm just saying all Americans ought to be happy with what happened yesterday on November the 8th. And once again, let me give you the applause that you deserve. You deserve this. Democrats and everybody else who voted for Democrats or voted for democratic values, little d, big D, whatever one that is, I get it mixed up. Give yourself a pat on the back. You changed the trend. And you should be very, very proud of what you've been able to do. Fantastic. Well, there you go. Just a little more doesn't hurt, right? So listen, be proud of that. You know, so what is your call to action, folks? I don't have a guest today, so the call to action is what I tell you all the time. You need to use your technology that you have out there. We've got this wonderful app that I keep talking about. It's called 5 Calls. Yep, it's called 5 Calls, and it is a pretty good app. And what it actually does is making sure your voice is heard. You can download that 5 Calls app to your cell phone, and once it's on your cell phone, it doesn't matter what cell phone you have, and it allows you to go towards the whole voting rights information that you need to have there. It provides you with that, but more importantly is based on the information you put in, it basically allows you to dial directly your member of Congress, senator, or either a House of Representative person, or whoever that may be. And basically it works on an iPhone, right? It works on a Google phone. There you go. There's the iPhone. And there's a Google phone. So you really don't have any excuse, because once you have that, you call your congressperson and you basically say, I know about this Voting Rights Act, and I know that I want to get this done, and I would like to make sure you support it, get it passed out of the Congress, the House, and the Senate, and get it to the president's desk for signature. Because the Voting Rights Act is the main thing that undergirds our democracy. So that's it. Other than that, all I want to say is you did a fantastic job. November the 8th was fantastic. And I'm just as happy as can be that we made some progress. We didn't win everything. We lost some things. You know, hey, I played that lotto. I thought I was going to win that 1.9 billion or whatever. I didn't get anything. But you know what? That's okay, because we did win this on November the 8th and kept a lot of good people in office, and we'll find out whether or not there's more that we're actually adding to office. So folks, again, be proud of yourself. We appreciate it. We want you to continue to do what you've done before and stay on that road to getting it done. And I'll see you next week with a fantastic guest. You won't just have to hear me run my mouth. And it's right at about the 7:30 point. And usually I'm bringing a guest on about this time, but now we're not. I'm just going to say goodbye to you and thank you, thank you, Thank you. Always with a little bit of Bob at the end of it. Could you be loved? You are loved. Come on, here we go. Thank you so much for taking time to listen. If you are listening to the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus Show, yes, live, and we're about to say goodbye. Thank you so much for spending a little time with us. Voting Rights Act, be proud of yourself. You're getting closer and closer every time. See you, folks.